The headlines couldn't be much bigger these days, now could they? We've watched Pam Bondi now roll out a federal prosecutor that's going to seat a grand jury. I'm guessing in Florida. We have not had that confirmed yet, but that is my guess. And so the whole grand conspiracy involving Barack Obama, John Brennan, James Clapper, and all those, they're all in the crosshairs now, and indictments could soon follow by the end of the year is what I'm hearing now. Also, you've got James Comer just issued subpoenas for the Clintons. I mean, this is like entertainment every place I look, and I know my next guest might have a little smile on his face. Mark Meckler is the co-founder and president of the Convention of States. He was actually going to stop by and talk about the IRS swamp scandal. We'll get to that. Mark, welcome to the program. But good golly.
Merry Christmas. That's what I have to say.
You know, so last week, Mark, and maybe you felt the same way, I finally looked at some of this stuff and I said, because I've been calling ever since Tulsi Gabbard said, look, we've got all of this. And then Grassley said, look at all of this. And I said, man, we have got to get straight to a grand jury. Don't need any special prosecutors. We've got the evidence. Let's get right to it. And they're doing it. And I thought to myself, for the first time, people could actually go to prison for committing actual crimes that are serious. Mark, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I've been waiting for this for a very long time. It's always frustrated me, and I've kind of come to ignore congressional committees and subpoenas and all that stuff because I just knew there were going to be no consequences. And so when all this stuff started coming out, that was my only question is, this is interesting, it's theater, but will there be consequences? And if there aren't, then frankly, I think the process itself is destructive because it sets expectations. But now it looks like there actually might be consequences. I agree with you. I think they're going to impanel that grand jury in Florida, which means you'll get an actual impartial grand jury instead of some crazy DC grand jury. It looks like some people may actually pay a price for wrongdoing, and that's a great thing for the Republic.
Yeah, it really is, and I don't know how far it's going to go, and it's going to be very divisive. Of course, you watch MSNBC, you watch Chicken Noodle News if you have to, and they're talking about Epstein. This is just a distraction from Epstein. There's no evidence here. No evidence? Are they kidding? What do you mean no evidence? Tulsi Gabbard laid it out. Chuck Grassley exposed it all. The annex, the burn bags. The Kash Patel and his team at the FBI found in a secret room in the back somewhere. Evidence, we've got literally sacks full of evidence, don't we?
We do, and the media that you're quoting, these are the same people that told us that the Russia collusion hoax was real, that the Steele dossier was real, that this was all some sort of crazy conspiracy theory, that any of this stuff was cooked up. So these are people who've lied to us literally now for many, many, many years. The fact that anybody listens to them anymore shows what kind of a bubble they live in, and I think that bubble gets smaller by the day.
You know how they always used to say, the walls are closing in on Donald Trump? No, you got that wrong. The walls aren't closing in. It just doesn't happen to be on him because all of these documents that have been declassified and put out for all to see now, that's evidence. And the grand jury is going to see all of this. I don't know who the prosecutor is. I don't know if we'll know for a while because they'll try to keep that under wraps. At some point it'll leak, but we'll see where this goes. All right, so let's talk about the Internal Revenue Service. The IRS commissioner has suspended some top Obama-era officials, and I want you to weigh in on this. Mark, tell us why this is happening and why it is so important.
Well, a little context. It's particularly important to me. I was one of the people that founded Tea Party Patriots, the largest Tea Party organization in the country. I watched a lot of my colleagues around the country get targeted by the IRS, abused by the IRS, audited by the IRS because they were Tea Party folks or constitutional folks. And Lois Lerner was at the head of that, this exempt organizations division. She sadly is now retired, living on a full government pension and never paid any price for this. Holly Paz and her compatriot, who are now have been put on administrative leave, were two of the people that we actually deposed during our litigation against the IRS. I knew exactly what they did. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew it was unconstitutional. They knew they were silencing their fellow Americans, and they did it with impunity anyway. And though this is 10 years too late, I'm glad to see some justice perhaps finally being done.
Now, with Lois Lerner, obviously she was somebody who targeted any conservative organization. I mean, it didn't matter who you were. They wouldn't fill out the paperwork. They wouldn't give you your status. They wouldn't do a whole host of things. But she's beyond the statute of limitations, yes or no?
Yeah, she is, and the thing is, she's retired. So what they're doing to these two ladies right now is not prosecuting. They put them on administrative leave. I hope ultimately it does lead to prosecution. I do think a lot of these crimes would be beyond the statute of limitations. So I think the best we can do is deprive them of their jobs and deprive them of their federal pensions.
So could Lois Lerner, because she's beyond the statute of limitations, therefore there's no crime to be confessed to, could she be compelled to testify behind closed doors, under oath, whatever, because she doesn't face any penalty? She can't hide behind the Fifth Amendment, I would think, but you might know better.
Yeah, she could be compelled to testify. And I think, again, to sanitize this whole thing is to bring it out in the light of day. And I think she needs to be compelled to testify. There's a lot of records. We got a lot of them in our litigation against the IRS. We know exactly who was involved. All of these people should be forced to testify publicly, and they should be forced to tell the whole truth. If we don't do that, then the IRS will never be cleaned up. And frankly, I don't think the IRS will ever be totally cleaned up anyway. I think we need to restructure our tax system and get rid of the IRS.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a flat tax is something I've agreed with ever since Steve Forbes came out with that. How many decades ago was that? I've agreed with it then. I agree with it now. Look, integrity in our institutions is is what you're touching on here, Mark. And I think that you cannot overstate how important that is. And that's why everything we've talked about here today, the Pam Bondi putting together a grand jury, James Comer sending subpoenas to Bill and Hillary Clinton and others, holding Lois Lerner accountable, whether or not we can prosecute her. But the only way you return integrity and put faith back in the institutions of this country, whether it's the FBI, the IRS, or a host of other alphabet agencies, is to hold people accountable, including prosecutions. Agree or disagree?
I absolutely agree. And this is a fundamental problem in our republic right now is people don't trust the institutions for good reason. We've seen the proof over and over across way more than even a decade, but certainly my 15 years in politics, I don't trust the institutions. And the reason is there's a two-tiered or three-tiered system of justice, especially if you're a powerful, connected Democrat. If you do things wrong and those things target conservatives, not only do you not get punished for those things, you generally get rewarded. If you're in the next administration, you'll go on to a higher position. One thing that most people don't know about Lois Lerner is she got in trouble previously in another part of the administration for targeting Christians. And for doing so, she got elevated and moved up in the IRS, just took a job in another part of an administration. So what we need to do is make sure that these people pay a price. They should be shamed. They should pay a societal price. They should be paid criminal prices, maybe civil fines. But I think one of the most important things we can do is drag them out in public and make them tell the truth.
Let me ask you this, Mark. If we're able to get to a Convention 5, Convention of States, something you hold near and dear to your heart, would some of these things be things that could be discussed and included in adjustments? And I don't mean wholesale changes to the Constitution. Adjustments here and there would be what we need in this country. Maybe a balanced budget line in there. Holding officials accountable if you do these things, certain things that should be maybe enumerated in the Constitution more robustly, because there are certain things that the founders could not anticipate. Got about 20 seconds. Real quick, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to be real specific and go to this income tax issue in the IRS. The framers never intended there to be a direct taxation relationship with the citizens of the country and the federal government. We should do away with that.
Right.
We should do away with the IRS. That's something we can do in an Article 5 convention.
Mark Meckler, greatly appreciate you being here. Great conversation. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Steve.
This is Steve Gruber Show.